A big task in front of us, and I'll try to give you some ideas how that could work, what we experience is all about. What you see here is what is still going on. We have an increasing emission of carbon dioxide from fossil fuel burning, and if we don't act, it will be some 50% more in the year 2030. So it's important to act. We have to reduce these emissions worldwide, and we can do it. We know it. That's from a slide from International Energy Agency. It's more than 50% what we have to increase efficiency in order to reduce the overall emission of carbon dioxide. Now, the increased efficiency is something which is available on a big scale. And it's a little bit surprising that in society, this part, what efficiency can play, is still not very well known. We have some publications on that in the last time, also from America, that the discussion is always mostly about the creation of energy. How can we produce energy, maybe from renewable sources, which is very important, of course. But on the other hand, it's also important, or even more important, to know about these possibilities to reduce the consumption. And I just want to show you this on another example. You might all already have seen these units, electronic ink or electronic paper, which are already available on the market. You have it for reading books, or some mobile phones have it also. But so far, it's not used as a computer screen, but it can be used as a computer screen. There are developments going on. Even this year, we have the first screens of electronic ink with a color display. And this year, there has been introductions of screens which already allow to run movies on it. So what's interesting of that device, it doesn't use any energy to produce this display. Only if you change the display, it uses a little bit, maybe 99% less than a normal display uses. So there is a big potential in efficiency, and well, is this surprising? No, I have to tell you it's not surprising at all, because how to have a display which doesn't need any energy to display something, you can already see if you just take a piece of paper. There is no energy needed to display what is on that paper. And this type of technology is very important that it spreads rapidly. So if you look, it's all interconnected. If you look on the problems we still have for delivering a good indoor climate during summer in office buildings, and if you look on these problems in a very in an analytic way, you come back to that the problem is mainly resulting from the energy consumption of these units. So if we are able to reduce these consumptions to almost zero, what we can do, there is another big potential to reduce the overall demand for air conditioning in our offices. Well, this was just one example from another part of energy use. We have good examples spread all around the world. I'll show you some of the examples in the presentations, and I'll show you some of the results and some of the places where we have these results from the energy use in buildings. And in Europe, it's in the range of 40% of all energy used is used to have comfortable conditions in buildings. And what we see here, that is the contemporary standard of new buildings all around Europe is somewhere in this range between 60 and 70 kilowatt hours per square meter and year for heating. And well, it was 3 times that in 10 years or 15 years ago. But we still have a big potential of reducing this demand by another 80%, and this potential is just using the technology we are speaking about in this conference. 80% reduction, and this is not a theoretical value. This is what sometimes surprises on these discussions. It very often sounds, even if politicians speak about it, that this is a theoretical task, that we have to look for solutions. Well, this solution is available. It's well proven. It's evaluated. What you see here are the measured consumptions of some 100 passive house dwellings in big passive house settlements. We have the consumption values of each of these dwellings, and we have the average of this consumption and the average consumption. So this is a measured value. It's not a theoretical value. They are in the range of 13 kilowatt hours per square meter and year. And this is the net square meter. So this is 80% less than what we have in contemporary standards. So this is almost zero. It's almost zero if you look on it in a way which looks for the environmental impact. I have seen lately a discussion that Bill Gates gave in one of his presentations. He said, we have to go to zero fossil fuel. And when he said it has to be almost zero, but this is like zero, so it's zero. And that's the mistake. It doesn't have to be zero. If it has to be zero, it will be very difficult. I agree. There are certain applications where it will be very, very difficult to change that. But if we look on the environmental impact and if we look on the social impact and on all these things, you'll see that almost zero is, for these issues, as if zero. So this is a solution if we come down to such a low consumption. And it's very easy to prove that is a solution, because if we reduce the overall consumption in our buildings to that very low level, and if we do the same with our monitors, we do the same with our cars and so on, there will be enough energy which can be created by sustainable measures to meet these requirements. So this is a solution which will work sustainably. This is already a sustainable solution. So we don't have to come to zero. It's very important to see that, because what you see from these statistics is also that it will be quite difficult to meet a exactly zero target. You see we have a spread in the consumption. This is just due to the different comfort levels people want to have in their buildings, just to their different behavior. And it will be very difficult to change these behaviors. It's almost impossible to change these behaviors. So we have to look for these different behaviors. So if we reduce the consumption more and more, there will be some of them, they could have maybe zero consumptions, and maybe it looks like it could be negative, well, but that's a problem, how to have a negative consumption. But there will still be some of them who have a partly positive consumption, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest a lot of money for just such a result. So now I have already talked about money. What can we see from the evaluation about the costs of this development? And that's another very surprising result, that there is, of course, additional costs, additional investment costs for building a passive house building. You see that that's the gray costs here. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more investment. You have to invest in order to build to the passive house standard. But what you see in this total cost analysis, at the end, if you look what has been left in your wallet, you'll see that the costs for energy, the costs for maintaining the building, they are reduced, and they are more reduced than the additional costs for the building is rising. Of course, you have to do that in a proper way using financial mathematics. That's clear. It has been done here, but this is a good and a surprising result. At the end, it is not in the sum. It's not more expensive than what we do at the moment. Well, there is a change. There is a change that some of the costs which have been costs for energy, for oil, gas, and so on, they are moved now they are now used to increase the quality of a building. And that means that the employment moves from people looking for gas and oil, and we can ask where this will happen, is now to people who are doing better quality in building buildings. I think this is a very interesting result too, which is interesting for the European Union as well. So we can not only use the passive house components for new construction, but also for retrofits of existing ones. This is a very nice example even of a listed building in the near of Zittau in eastern Germany, which has been retrofitted by Passive House measures with a good evaluation as well. They have proven that the overall U values really are in the range of 0.12 watts per square meter Kelvin in this development. And not only in Germany where all the movement started, but also now in all Europe. This is an example from Great Britain, where also a listed building was renovated using passive house components and is almost passive house now in the range of 18 kilowatt hours per square meter in the year after retrofit. What is important if you look on retrofit? You don't do retrofits each 5 years. You don't do it each 10 years, and you won't do it each 20 years. This is all much too expensive. You will do it when it comes. And if you do it, then you should do it right. This is the main philosophy. So just don't use commonly used double pane windows anymore. Don't use insulation with less than 20 centimeters if you do external insulation in buildings, and so on and so on. So if you do it right. So it won't only be the 25–30% reduction you normally have. You can have 80 to 90% reduction in energy use during a retrofit of a building. At the very moment you do it, it has to be done in the right way. So this philosophy we have discussed on a certain level in the past. There are already some hundreds of examples in Europe doing that, and we have now introduced a retrofit certificate for this philosophy, saying that we have a quality-approved retrofit using passive house components, which will give you normally reductions between 80 and 90%, and maybe in listed buildings where you only can do inside insulation, it may be down to, say, 60 or 70% reduction. So this is available on the Passive House homepage. About the components. The components are very important. The development in the components is very important. And making these components available changes the market. So nowadays we have lots of these solutions which are published. All of the solutions we give certificates are published. They are commonly available. You can use these types of construction with negative thermal bridge effects, not only for timber construction like this one, also for masonry constructions. All these things are now available in all types of constructions for all types of buildings. An important component is the window. So the standard contemporary window is still a heat loss window. The window of the future, well, it's already available. The window of the future will be a heat gain window. So the overall U values are reduced to somewhat between 0.6 and 0.8 watt per square meter Kelvin. The overall aperture of a window will be bigger than it was in the past, so that you gain more solar energy inside of a building, and you result in a almost zero energy loss window, or even a energy gain window. This is the future, and these windows don't have to be much more expensive than the normal ones, but they of course will be a little bit more expensive than the standard ones we have had in the past. What we know is that these things are working. They not only reduce the amount of energy you need, but they also improve the comfort inside of the buildings, which might be surprising for some people. We have very often heard that there are conflicts between different goals, the goal of reducing energy demand and the goal of comfort inside of a building. This is just not true. The better the window, the better the U values, the better the comfort in the building will be, and this has been proven by lots of evaluations and measurements. This is just an example. You see the high quality passive house window in the background with -5 degrees on the outside. On the inside we have surface temperatures in the range between 17 and 21 degrees, so this is a very comfortable environment without any additional radiator in front of a window. And this is the standard one, not an old one. This is a new building where a new window has been installed with surface temperatures in the range of 12 degree, 13 degree with same conditions. So the comfort is much better with the better windows. And these windows are already available. They are on the markets, and I'm quite proud about that. There are lots of small and medium enterprises producing these windows. So there is a chance for small and medium enterprises to get a real share in this development. So they can substitute for oil or for gas coming from big international corporations. This is a very good competition, I think, that we can have this development on a European level. There will be a change in our certification of windows beginning next year. There will be still the same criteria for the overall, the total U value calculated with the EN 10077, but nowadays we have better components available on the market, so we can classify these components by the energy efficiency they have. There can be different labels beginning with a net energy gain window, which will have the level A, and downwards the level D will be, say, the normal passive house window, the window which is just suitable for passive houses and which can be used in some of the developments where you don't need the high-tech quality. If you are talking about components, one important component is ventilation. We have done measurements on air quality in passive houses. Lots of these measurements have been done. One of the latest results are from my colleague, Mr. Tabler from Vienna, in passive house developments, buildings in Innsbruck, where we are down with the volatile organic compound monitoring to some 50 micrograms per cubic meter, much, much less than in the past, much, much less than what is recommended in international results. When I saw these results first, I was very surprised that this can work, but it can, and this is another opportunity which we have from that development. So it's not only that the energy demand is reduced, not only that the comfort is better, but the indoor air quality is better at the same. But what is important, you can see here, that's another measurement of radon exposition in passive houses, which has been done by colleague Walter Reinhold Uhlig, in a region where we have problems with radon exposition. You see the radon values are very low as long as the ventilation system is running. And yes, if you don't run this ventilation system, you see here you are up to values we don't have to talk about. So what you see here, this is the normal situation in normal new buildings without ventilation. Be clear about that. Well, this is a problem. It's a health problem. And so it's very important to have a proper ventilation in new buildings and in retrofit buildings, because we make new buildings tight and we make retrofits tight, so we need a ventilation. It's very important to have a ventilation. We can see that from these results. Yes, and there is a badge about that. You can, now, we were very, we didn't do that in the past. I thought it's not necessary. There are lots of, there is Leeds, there is Bream, there is Minergie, and so on. Why do we need another badge? But, well, people seem to need it, so you can have now the certification with that sign on your building. We have a growing international development. It's, at the moment, there's a real hype in UK. Bill Butcher was at the last PassiveHouse conference this spring in Dresden, and one of the things he said was, this is important that guys like him say, this is green without the sackcloth. There's no sacrifice to be made. It's important to see that. And he's right. And that's a good development. We can do that. And it's not only in the UK, it's also in Slovakia, it's in Czech Republic. We have it all around Europe. And not only ideas, not only theory, but really built buildings with real good results. This is an example from Japan. It's the first built passive house in Japan, but now there are already 5 of them which have been constructed. Mivamori doing that work, I think a very nice project. It has also got an architectural prize in the competition. This is a solution which can be used all around the world. Well, we have to be careful. The methodological approach can be used all around the world, but of course the concrete solutions are different from place to place. One international result, which is an evaluation from buildings which have been built in Vienna, and an evaluation which has been done by colleague Martin Trebersburg and others from Vienna University Boku. They compared the calculated energy requirements of a total of 6 passive house developments with a total of some 1,000 dwellings, with the measured, the monitored consumption. And it's interesting to see it for the passive houses. So these are the passive houses. On the right-hand side, you see low energy houses which have been built in the same time. And what you see, there's a much bigger spread in the results, and there are much more differences between what you aimed for and what you got. So the interesting result is that the overall consumption in the passive houses is indeed reduced by a factor of at least 4 from the low energy house to the passive house, and that you have a very, very good chance to really meet the goals if you use the passive house technology. So a very important thing is the communication. The International Passive House Association, where the Belgian Passive House Association, PHP and PMP, will be affiliated to that, will be a network for the spreading of the passive house knowledge. These are the 2 girls working on that, Mrs. Espenberger and Sarah Mekjan from Germany and from the United States of America. One of the things we are working on at the moment is the creation of a knowledge background called Passipedia. It's a little bit sounding like Wikipedia, and it's a little bit like that. There will be all the experiences gained so far introduced in this. There is a general information for the public where you can see all the things you need to know, and there will be a part 2, the information for the members, for the associated members of a passive house associations. In Europe, there are now passive house initiatives in all European countries, including Albania. It's surprising, but it's true. And there are realized projects in almost all countries. The last one has come in Greece just a few weeks ago. And worldwide, there is a widespread development in almost all countries where it's important to have that. Even in Southern America, there are initiatives in New Zealand and in Australia. So all these experience is spreading around the world. What is important is, of course, it's not very difficult, but it's different from what you have done in the past. So there is information which has to be taught. And so there are courses available, postgraduate educations. One example is the Certified European Passive House Designer, which was created by a European Union finance project called CEPH, Certified European Passive House Designer, where people can learn about all these technologies. And the surprising thing is, this was created in autumn 2009. In autumn 2009, the material was available, and already now we have 800 certified architects which have come to these courses and which have done the test procedures, which is not easy to do, which we have learned from these people. It's not an easy test to be done, so this is growing very, very rapidly. Yes, and this is my last slide. I want to invite those of you who want to be included in this international field to the next conference, the next international conference, which will take place on passive houses. We change the place every year. We still have a competition for the Passive House Conference the year after, in 2012. Maybe it will be in Brussels, I don't know, could be. The next one, 2011, will be in Innsbruck on May 27th, 28th. Thank you very much for your caution.